Okay, hey folks, this is our second preparatory webinar leading up until your August retreat here in Sedona. We've just got about, 2 weeks now? 2 weeks from tomorrow we start. So thanks for joining me. First of all, make sure you do have your pens and papers handy, so take some notes because this is very important material which we will cover tonight. And it's pretty in-depth, detailed material, so I'll try to go slow so you don't have to try to copy too fast. First point I want to make is that it may seem premature to talk about publishing at this point because you don't have your book written. It's not. It's not. Because right now is the time to collect the information about getting published so that when you do get your book written and your book desires to move in that direction, you already have the answers and philosophies and approaches and decisions made about what you're going to do. So there's no last minute panic. Second point I want to make is just for the time being, if you can replace the word publishing in your mind with the word sharing, please put that in your notes because that's what it is. Your books will want to be shared outside of you. Yeah, I know it's hard to believe. The exclusive relationship with your book will grow exponentially. So sharing. Third of all, before 2008, when I would teach a retreat, I could anticipate that a good portion, nearly 50% of the people who would take the retreat would not have a calling to publish their material or not have a calling by their material to be published. Things seem to have changed substantially since 2008, and the key being the shakeup of the worldwide economy. People have a tendency to take things much more seriously now. I would say just about everyone that takes a retreat, when they finish their book, they're looking to potentially have the material published. And the book publishing world has changed substantially, hugely, if not 100% close to, since 2008. Let me give you a short history of publishing. Authors, present company excluded, of course, notoriously bad business people. So we've always relied on, until recently, we've relied on outside entrepreneurs, corporations, or companies to carry the publishing ball forward for us. Up until about 1995, that wasn't that bad of a deal. There's two major drawbacks, and please write these down. Two major drawbacks with relying on outside entities to publish and distribute your material for you. One drawback was it would take them a long time to move your book through the publishing process, usually an average of 2 years. So in other words, if you finished a book today, you could expect your book to be out on the shelves in 2 years, which was a significant liability because they would be guesstimating where your audience would be in 2 years. 2 years is a long time to wait for a product to come out in the market as well, too. Second major drawback was authors didn't get paid very much money. These entrepreneurs and companies and corporations, being wise business people, kept the vast majority of the income. Leading up until 1995-ish or so, you could anticipate making a 10% royalty rate on the cover price of the books. If your book sold for $20, you'd make $2 a book. So in other words, you'd have to sell approximately 500,000 books to make $1 million. And one of the greatest opportunities available for you in regards to being an author is not only artistic freedom, but financial freedom in today's market. So things kind of bubble along until 1995, and before 95, you could expect it to be handled quite well and quite handsomely by the publisher that you signed on with. They would educate you, they'd bring you along, they'd make an extended commitment to you of usually 3 to 5 books, anticipating that it would take time to nurture your abilities. So you'd kind of enter into, from their perspective, hopefully a lifelong partnership We'd worked together with the same editor, same publishing house, same publicity people for decades, nurturing each other's abilities. So it's kind of like a university, the heyday of conventional publishing. It's kind of like a university, and you were on scholarship for tenure, depending upon your stage of development. So things worked well. There was security, there was safety, there was support, consistent support, and authors were treated well, with the exception of the fact that they didn't make that much money from the total take. Come 1995, around 1995, conventional publishing was taken over by Fortune 500 companies. Now, before then, the majority of large publishing houses were owned by well-to-do families with several different streams of income. So it's not that they wanted to lose money through publishing, but they didn't care if they made money because they wanted to influence society and bring greater attention to their family name. And if they lost $30 million, oh well, they had a good year in the railroad, so they made it up there. Okay, so again, their primary motivations was to influence society and bring greater attention to the family name. 1995-ish or so, the takeover of conventional publishing by Fortune 500 companies was complete, and they changed the entire way the market was done. And it changed completely our relationship with authors, their relationship with authors. First thing they established was a 90-10 rule. 90-10 rule, which this equated to, and this is an informal unwritten rule. The 90-10 rule basically stated this: top 10% of the books that they would publish per year would get all of their assistance, all of their guidance, all of their support. Now, those top 10% were the ones that they pay the most money for, usually a minimum of $350,000 above, $350,000 and above for. The other 90% would not get any support at all, other than they would publish their books, which was print them. They would not get any editorial support. They would not get any commitment. They would not get any promotional support. Basically, it was up to the author, for his or herself, to take that book, put it on her big, broad shoulders, and carry it through life in hopes that they could sell enough copies that they could sign another lousy contract for their second book. And it was not unusual that before 1995, for book publishers to sign authors, brand new authors, to multiple book deals, because they needed 3 to 5 books from their perspective to see a good young author mature. Multiple book contracts became fewer and fewer once taken over by Fortune 500 companies. So, whether you look at conventional book publishing before 1995 or after 1995, until 2008, conventional book publishers had a monopoly over our book reading purchases. Because through one business relationship or another, they controlled bookstores. And that's how Americans and people worldwide bought their books, were through brick and mortar bookstores. Now, come 2008, in the fall of our economies, our collective economies, some major things happened around 2008. Number one, bookstores started to close at a rapid rate, thousands a year, because individuals got a lot more selective with their hard-earned income and how they spent it. Number two, the advent of digital book publishing came on board. Now, before I talk about digital book publishing, let me talk to you shortly about brick and mortar bookstores closing. So conventional book publishers could choose what books were going to sell, what books they were going to publish, and choose which ones they're going to put their money into, the promotion money into, because they pretty much owned the rights to the book, and they owned the rights to how that book was going to be sold through the bookstores. When that crumbled, that opened up a doorway for authors to directly approach readers on their own through digital book publishing. Now, one of the first authors to try digital book publishing was Stephen King, and he tried it approximately 13 years ago, I guess, maybe even longer than that. Yes. probably 15 or 18 years ago. He tried digital book publishing. And his theory was, well, I'm already popular, so I don't really need to promote my book. I just need to let people know that my next book is available. And if I make my book available through my website, I can give away two or three chapters of my latest book for them to read, my readers to read. And if they like that book, then they can go ahead and buy a digital version, which they can download onto their computer. Well, King's theory was correct, but it was a little bit premature. It didn't work at all, in fact. It didn't work at all because Americans weren't computer savvy. People worldwide weren't as computer savvy as they are now. And the last thing they want to do was spend more time in front of a computer, because all they used computers for back then was business. And that felt like their luxury time, their leisure time was being eaten up by sitting in front of the computer they tried to get away from at the end of the business day. Second of all, to read King's books, they would either have to read them on the screen that they were allergic to at that point, socially allergic to, or they'd have to print out the book on their jet printers in hopes that they could take this massive pile of papers and read it as a book. Well, we quickly found out that Americans love books more than they love words. They love books more than they love words. And people worldwide the same way. They wanted the book. They wanted to feel the book. They wanted to feel like they're in a book, not reading a mass of words on copy paper. So digital publishing pretty much went dormant until, just about, let's see, my daughter's 10 years old, about 8 years ago. 8 years ago. With the first book reader, which was released by Sony, called the Sony Book Reader. Now, revolutionized digital publishing, because no longer did you have to read a book through a computer screen or print it out on your printer to see it. You had this beautiful little leather-bound book-looking like thing that you could open up, and on this screen was a page that looked exactly like a book or a book cover or an illustration, and you could turn the pages just like you would on a hard copy book. And you could carry up to 2,500 copies of different books on this beautiful little leather-bound book called the Sony Book Reader. Popularity of that was, of course, followed by the iPad, Nook, Kindle, and just general PDF files. And that opened up a whole new arena. The crash of bookstores in conjunction with digital publishing opened up a brand new arena for authors to control the rights to their own work and to bring their book to market within months. Read my lips, months, as opposed to years. So in today's world, because of the computer industry in general, technology in general, and digital books, as well as hard copy books that can be written off of digital books, you can literally get your book published once it's completed, once it's edited, within 72 to 96 hours, and have a distributor worldwide. Now, how does this benefit us? Well, if we can buy into or put together a system by which we can emulate the strengths of conventional publishing while conventional publishing was in its heyday, the editorial strengths, the promotional strengths, technical strengths, the distribution strengths. If we can put together a business, buy into a system, put together those pieces on our own, we can emulate what conventional publishing used to do for authors, while also immediately addressing the drawbacks that conventional publishing had even in its heyday. We can get a book out within weeks, if not days, easily, through the formatting of our own books, through formatting companies. We can also expect to derive, if we sell the book directly from our website ourselves, like King tried to do, we can expect to receive 100% of the net profit. So on a $20 book, please write this down. On the sale of a $20 book through your website, hardcover book, hard copy book, that'd be softback or hard copy, or hardcover. You can expect to sell a book for $20, expect to derive a profit of $15 if you sell it directly through your own website. Now, if you sell that book digitally through your own website, you can expect to derive a profit of $20. Where does the extra $5 go? $5 on the hard copy goes to production and mailing. This is directly through your own website. Well, we still have a problem with that, though, don't we? No one knows who we are. So it's impossible to expect a large sale of books through your website until somebody gets to know you. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with that problem? You publish and promote and distribute your books through Amazon or Lightning Source, which is a derivative of Ingram, the largest distributor of books in the world. So do we want to stay with Amazon forever? No. We stay with them until we get so popular, because they're going to take a good 50 to 60% of our profit. But they fulfill our needs by printing, distributing, delivering, and collecting the money on our books. We stay with them until the point where our name gets so big that we've gone viral. We've gone viral. Once we've gone viral, then we toss all our money into promoting our website so we can make a much higher profit margin of $15 per $20 book, as opposed to somewhere around $6 to $7 per sale of $20 book. Now, one thing that disturbs me, I've been in business for 32 years, so I'm pretty well savvy in regards to business matters. And I guess it's a pet peeve of mine. Authors oftentimes believe the minute they release their published book, they're going to make $1 million or sell millions of books. Now, that does occasionally happen. Occasionally, very, very rarely. What they don't realize is that there is no overnight success in book publishing. In my case, by the time my first book actually went to market and sold and became a bestseller, you see, I'd been working consistently for 9 years. 9 years. Developing my trade, my craft, my abilities, my market. 9 years. Total of 14 years if you go to college, kind of my collegiate years as well too. So oftentimes we have people come into our retreats and think, well, this would be great. I'll write my book in a weekend. I'll get it published in 3 months, and I'll quit my job and be a millionaire shortly after that. It takes time to build an audience to be able to go viral. Now, what does viral mean? So that's our ultimate goal, is going viral. Going viral means becoming a household name to the point where your book is a multi-design bestseller. In other words, there's 4 ways that your book can sell. Number 1 is an ebook. Number 2 is a print-on-demand book, which is a hard copy version of a self-published book, which is normally sold through CreateSpace, which is Amazon, or the Lightning Source, which is Ingram, as an audiobook and as a conventional book for a book publisher. So going viral means you're a bestseller in more than one of those categories. What happens when you're a bestseller in more than one of those categories is that people's name recognition of your title, your abilities, become so reflective of their interest in you that they will continually buy your book every time another one is released. So those of you who already listened to my New Age of Publishing, I'm assuming most of you have, or you will soon. I'm going to summarize how we utilize conventional book publishers now. Conventional book publishers used to own the market. Between 2008, they owned book buying, they owned book purchasing. They now are basically a shadow of themselves. So you may say, why would we consider going to a conventional book publisher when we lose primarily our control of our book? We lose our rights. potentially, and we reserve a very small percentage of the income that we could make selling a book on our own. Well, there's a reason, because conventional book publishing holds a credibility level. If you're a best-selling author through a conventional book publisher, you're much closer to being a viral-based author than ever before, number one. Number two, they still control a significant portion of the market, much smaller version of the market, maybe 40% as opposed to the 98% they used to control. So the only way you can get to their audience is to publish through a well-respected, well-known publishing name. So here's what I suggest doing. Publishing your book initially as an ebook and as a print-on-demand version. Now, print-on-demand, let me tell you what that equates to. Print-on-demand is defined as print-on-demand, or POD. In our market, in our selective readership market, you are not credentialed by these readers as a genuine author until you come out with a hard copy version of your book. Whether it be softback or hardback, a hard copy version of your book. POD enables you to provide that along with your digital book. You focus on building a platform, which is a stage of acknowledgement, stage of awareness of who you are, an audience that you're going to be reaching through that stage, and you project your book out as a digital book and POD book. Once you land as a bestseller in either one of those categories, the ultimate bestseller list we're looking for is the New York Times, you'll see that all of a sudden your audiobook sales will go up substantially, and the audiobook version becomes a reality then in producing. And then all of a sudden you'll begin to draw the interest of conventional book publishers who are trend followers. Please write that down in your notes. Best-selling authors are trendsetters. Trendsetters. Conventional book publishers are trend followers. So until you establish a trend, they're not really interested in buying your book because they're really not buying the book, nor you. They're buying the trend that you've tapped into. It's very important to know. So once your book hits a major best-selling list like the New York Times, you'll find that conventional book publishers will be calling you, offering you major contracts of usually $350,000 and above for an advance, which means you also fall into their top 10 list, where they're going to actually go out and promote your book because they'll have so much money invested within you that they have to. They will be offering you royalty rates way beyond the 10% that they usually offer, 5% in some cases to new authors, way beyond that. When that circumstance happens, write this down in your notes. When you get a conventional book publisher, a worthy conventional book publisher calling you, offering you a deal, the first thing you're going to do is call Tom. We'll put together a half-an-hour consultation for free. I'll tell you exactly what to do to bleed them out of every drop of money they have. See, the only thing that these conventional book publishers relate to these days, they don't relate to their word, they don't relate to a contract, they relate to money. The more money you can borrow from them in regard to publishing of their book, the harder they have to work to make the book sell and make the money back. That's how the publishing industry works. Now, most of you are familiar with the fact that I have a Publishing Now program, which has been in effect, I think it's been about 5 years now. Let me tell you how it originated. I don't know what you folks are, but I pay all my bills online, and the majority of mail that I get are receipts, occasionally a statement, and most of the cases it's advertising. So to be honest with you, I only go through my mail at most once a month. It kind of piles up. And then one Saturday, usually a month, I sit by the trash can and throw things away, because I very rarely get any personal letters or postcards or anything. So with this one day, I'm throwing away my mail, and there's this letter. I thought, oh my God, a letter. And it was actually addressed to me, and it was written in such a way that it looked like something that a serial killer would put together. There's all scattered words all over the place, different colored pens. So I set it down for a few days before I opened it. And then I did open it. This long legal sheet of paper was in there. It was written in the same manner. It looked like something written by a serial killer. It's actually written by one of my authors, by the name of a gentleman by the name of Ryan Hightower, who's very creative and very expressive, and that was just the way he wrote his letter to me. And basically what he said in the letter was, Tom, you got people writing books in a few days. That's great. Good job. Super. Wonderful. I'm one of them. But what you don't realize, Tom, is you can lead these same people to not only write a book in a few days, but they get their books published in months after that, become the authors they want to be overnight. So Ryan was right on. This was before the technology evolved to the point where groups of individuals, like-minded individuals, began coming together and forming entities that would enable us to make this a reality. So I looked into it for about a year and a half. I'm very slow to make business decisions, because I'm very wise and playing with my own money. And so I kind of looked at the options. I thought, he's right, but everyone is in a segmented field. Editors are over here, style editors are over here, copy editors are over here, formatters are over here, artists are over here, promotion people over here. No one was consolidating their talents into one production line. So I decided to do that. I decided to do it to try to open up a brand new form of publishing. And it took me about, in the course of that year and a half, I either reviewed or interviewed or spoke to or wrote to or emailed back and forth about 350 technicians, whether they be editors, style editors, copy editors, whatever. And I put together initially 3 teams, 3-team production lines: style editor, copy editor, formatter, artist, promotion person. And I decided that I would start working with authors to publish their material. Now, I would be serving as a fulfillment house. Please write that down. Not a publishing house, a fulfillment house. The key to my operation was that they would actually be publishing their own books, just using my services to do so. That way, they could retain all of their money that they made as profit and wouldn't have to give me a share for using my publishing name. I would just be providing services. So I put that into play in a very casual, selective way about 5 years ago, and ran some people through the system to perfect it. And I had it perfected within about a year and a half, 2 years. And then I decided that I would cut one production line out, and I'd have 2 different production lines, one primary one and one backup one, which the backup one I've never had to use. So what I was trying to do is emulate conventional book publishing at its best, but in a way that we can move your book through the process in a few months as opposed to a few years, and design a financial system by which you could keep not the lion's share, but all of your profit from the publishing of your books. So I did that, and right now we're in full swing. We've been in full swing with the Publish Now program now for 3 to 3.5 years, I would guess it would be. And but we still selectively take people into the program. The vast majority of people, all but 2 last year, I think, were students that we brought into the program through my retreats. This upcoming retreat, we will take approximately 12 to 15 people only into the program coming out of the retreat. And you'll immediately go into what is referred to as the Authors Developmental Program. This is a 10-session program by which we walk you through the preparation of your book for publishing, publishing of your book, the removal of the emotional barriers you have against those 2 major steps. That's one thing I found out very early on in working with authors and publishing. They need support. They need emotional support, not just logistical and technical support. They need emotional support. They need to move through as part of a group. That's why I came up with the Authors Developmental Program, which has been on the books now for, it'll be 2 years this October. I instituted as part of the Publishing Now program to move people through their blockages and establish a consistent system to get the books published in a reasonable period of time, while also educating them about all the ins and outs of publishing so they can emulate the system again and again and again and again. Right now, we are reliant on the use of CreateSpace to publish and distribute your book through, because I'm dealing with first-time authors. Our ultimate goal is to get to the point where you as an author, after getting a good start from us, will take the ball and run down the field and become so successful that you won't need CreateSpace to distribute your book for you. So you can keep 100% of all the money that is generated through the rights of your book. So that's my little publishing talk. Don't turn me off yet, Sabrina, because I'm not done yet. I want to prepare you for publishing because it's something that your book is going to want to do. You may think, oh my God, I don't even know what the heck I'm going to write about. This guy is talking about publishing. This is crazy. The reason I'm talking about it now is to prepare you for your success that you're going to experience at the retreat. And so you'll know what to do. And so you'll be making decisions in advance. So when your book is written, you can immediately flow into the process as opposed to clog your momentum by having to just look into all this information on your own after the retreat. So Sabrina, Sabrina will be sending you, I'm just telling you this now. We've just put together a brand new publishing manual. Welcoming, it tells you everything about the program so we don't have to repeat it over and over and over again. You don't have to listen to us repeat it over and over and over and over and over and over again. She's going to send you copies of that tomorrow along with copies of this video. She'll send you a sample Publishing Now program contract as well. Now, the only way we can guarantee that you will have a space in the program is if you sign up before the retreat. Now, I've talked to some of you who I felt so strongly about that I promised to hold a retreat space for you, hold you a Publishing Now space for you until Saturday of the retreat. And as I interview each one of you individually, I make that assessment. So if you're interested in this, read the material. Definitely read the material before the retreat either way. And let us know if this is something that you want to do so we can have a nice little chat back and forth, you and I, if we haven't had one already, to make sure that we'd be a good mix for both you and me working together. So that's it, Sabrina. You can shut me off. We'll go to Q&A.